Hi everybody, looks like we are in. Sorry for the delay. We had some technical issues, but without any further ado, let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome to today's session of UPSC Buffet by Gallant IAS. We are going to dive deep into the environment part of the PYQs, starting with the 2021 PYQ. I really hope you all guys went through the last discussions and seemed it helpful. So we'll be continuing the session from now on. So as usual, we'll be having the session at 1 p.m. sharp every day. So stay tuned. Let's get started. So we'll be dealing with the environment. So in the past we have dealt with polity, economy and geography. Now we'll be moving on to environment 2021. So question number 1. Why is there a concern about copper smelting plant? As you all know, we won't be knowing any of this because this is something we know, but anyways, nobody's going to learn or have a good idea about what a copper smelting plant does or anything about that. You'll be having an idea that it's a metal processing plant, that's it. Okay, anyways, it will be a polluting industry. Obviously, it's a high polluting industry, that's known for that. So we'll analyze the question parts. Okay, so first of all, we'll read all the statements, starting with they may release lethal quantities of toxic carbon monoxide into the environment. Okay, carbon monoxide emission is something that is common with all sort of metal processing industries. So that is there. So it is possible that carbon monoxide might be a component of that, because when when copper is being smelted, the ore is being smelted, things like that could happen. Okay, carbon monoxide will be there, but we have to pay attention to that. They may release. Okay, it's a general statement. They may release. It is saying that they may, but it is saying that lethal quantities. Lethal as in it's instantly death. That means that can cause instant death. That sort of quantity. So any industry that deals with such a high toxic material won't be releasing lethal quantities into the environment. They will be releasing, of course, but it is saying that lethal. Okay, anyways, we'll hold on to that statement for a while. This is one area you should pay close attention, because most of the aspirants make a mistake of going and instantly reading the statement and think that okay, this has got may and you may not look into the lethal side of things. You may think that okay, this is saying that they may. Okay, since the possibility and burden of proof is less, we might think that okay, this is a possible scenario. But hold on. Copper slag can cause leaching of some heavy metals into the environment. Yeah, copper slag. Copper slag means the byproduct or the after product of what happens after the processing of copper. Basically, the copper ore is being smelted and pure copper is being retrieved from that ore, and the remaining slag, that means that could contain a lot of things, including heavy metals, hydrocarbons, and maybe even some organic compounds, things like that. So it could contain a lot of things. So they can cause some heavy metal leaching into the environment. It's possible only. That is a very general statement and seems like true only. They may release sulfur dioxide as pollutant. Okay, they may release any sort of toxic gases or anything as a pollutant. They may release. They have a very good chance. That's the reason why we are isolating these plants, and there is stringent norms for their disposal, and zero effluent policies are being put in place. So this is also possible. These two statements seems very likely, meaning that we could eliminate statements that doesn't have both of them. So we are left with B and D. Again, we have to look through this. They may and lethal. So going by the lethal side of things, it seems very extreme. That's the thing. They have combined a general statement, general keyword with an extreme keyword. So meaning that net result of that statement will be extreme only. So given the extreme nature of that statement and the possibility of a smelting plant releasing lethal quantities, it seems very unlikely. In the event of an accident or something, that can happen, but that's not the general case. They may release, we cannot take it like that. So we can eliminate that statement and we'll arriving at 2 and 3. That's how we arrive at the answer. But one takeaway from this question is to pay close attention to these statements. Lethal brings into the extreme category of statements. So pay close attention to that. Also, one more thing, this copper slag has been repeatedly asked by UPSC in multiple times. That's what's the purpose of copper slag. They can be used in road construction, and they are often clubbed with environmental friendly activities, because this copper slag is a pollutant, and if you can repurpose it for construction, something of that sort, then they act as an environment friendly way. But in general, they are not very environment friendly. Obviously, they contain heavy metals. So handling them properly and using them for construction activities is a possible thing, and that is somewhat a sustainable practice that is being used. UPSC has asked that in 2020 or 2022, I guess. So pay close attention to this copper slag. Okay, that's it. Moving on. Then furnace oil, same line of thought. Furnace oil, okay. Furnace, we know where we actually make the metals, or heat them to a point that so they become malleable, and we can shape them into the based on our needs. So that's what furnace does. It's a kiln basically. It's a furnace or a large oven. And furnace oil, okay, maybe it could be a byproduct or whatever. We'll go through the statements. It is a product of oil refineries. Oil, furnace, maybe, good chance. Some industries use it to generate power, maybe, since it's an oil. Obviously, oils are high density, energy rich materials. So most of the oils are fuel only. Even the cooking oil is also a fuel. We know that. So they can be used to generate power. So that is possible. 2 and 3 is right. 2 is right. It causes sulfur emissions into the environment. Anything, just like we have looked at the copper smelting and copper slag, it can cause sulfur emissions. Yeah, that is also possible. The only doubt we'll be having is it's a product of oil refineries. Oil refineries. I have always repeatedly said that petroleum produces products, in the scale of, I don't know, thousands or 10,000s, because the byproducts from this oil, petroleum products are like innumerable. So they could be a product, they could encompass anything, including metals or hydrocarbons or anything. So having an oil like furnace oil being a product of oil refinery seems very likely, because oil refineries, the kind of products that oil refineries make are immense. Right from the wax, from the petroleum, to the diesel, to the kerosene, to the aviation fuel, everything. So it's very possible. So all the three statements make sense. Don't just go into the usual logic of sticking everything right for a science and tech or an environment question. Don't do that mistake. Go through the statements one by one. There could be a trap, just like the last question we have seen. The extreme statements could be hidden. So pay close attention to that. Okay. So we'll be taking this as D only. So that's it. Moving on. Again, the takeaway is that copper smelting furnace oil. Don't be alarmed by seeing these questions. Nobody will be knowing anything about this. It's not just you. For everybody, such a question, such a statement will be a bouncer. But it's the way you handle it that matters. It's not about, you cannot learn anything. They could be asking next time about something entirely different. Furnace oil and all is not very common back in the day, or even now we won't be hearing about that in the current affairs or anything. So it's not about learning it in prior, it's about handling it when the situation comes. So have that composition of mind and use your logic, use your pay close attention to those keywords and choose the answer. Okay, moving on. This in the nature, which of the following is most likely to be found surviving on a surface without soil? This checks basically your understanding, your common observation. We live in a subtropical climate, and we often come across fern. I think anybody in India will have seen this fern. We used to play with this when we were a child, and the core thing is that they are basically plants, and the specialty of fern is that they don't have seeds or flowers. They just reproduce through spores. And that's the spore that we used to make a makeshift tattoo back in the day. We used to do that. So fern is a plant, we know that. Any plant will be needing soil. So anything that doesn't have the option with fern will be out. So fern is gone, meaning that we are left with 2 and 3. In that process, we have lost mushroom also. This is one mistake people usually make, that mushrooms that doesn't need soil. You might see that they are saprophytes and they grow on tree barks or tree stuffs like that. But actually the mushroom part, what we see is the flowering part of the mushroom. The basic, the fungal part of the mushroom is actually beneath the soil only. The only spore part is being visible as mushroom, and that sprouts through the tree bark or the fallen wood and etc. But they actually need soil. That's one key important thing you need to know. Okay, we might mistake mushroom for that matter. Mushroom needs soil actually. So anyways, if you are able to eliminate fern, we won't be needing that logic. But just for the record, you might need knowing that. Okay. So we are left with lichen and moss. We know moss. Moss grows on even trees, walls, like concrete walls. We can see that everywhere we see moss. They are the primary. They are, I think, in the ecological succession, they are the secondary things happening. So post lichen will have moss. So they both don't need soil to grow. They even grow on concrete buildings anywhere. Okay, they just need moisture. That's it. So that's the right statement. The takeaway is that observe this. The UPSC is basically checking your observation skills. Anybody in India would have seen fern, and if you are able to connect it with the plant part of thing, and you need to know that it grows only in soil. Any plant will be growing in soil only, so you will be able to eliminate that. And most ecological succession. That's somewhat an ecology knowledge. So moss is there, lichen obviously is there. Lichen doesn't need any soil because it's a symbiotic relationship between bacteria and a fungi. So they won't be needing any soil as such. So that's true. Then we have got the answer. Moving on. This is another area where, paying attention to the kind of the naming of the organisms really helps. First of all, what are the primary producers? Who are primary producers? Basically, primary producers are basically plants. Anybody who can make food on their own, and the rest of the organism, the rest of the food chain depend on them or consume them for energy. That's basically it. So those who are producing food, basically plants in general, and other organisms like lichens, bacteria, cyanobacteria are also part of primary producers. Those who can produce food on their own. That's basically it. So easy way to eliminate options is to look for higher order animals or higher order organisms. Going by the name of these copypods, arthropods, copypods, tetrapods. These are all insects or somewhat belonging to that category of organisms, which are higher order only, because they will be feeding on other organisms or even plant matter for that matter. So anyways, anything that ends with pods generally is not a plant, it's proper animal. So animals are definitely not primary producers. So we can actually eliminate this copypod based on that. Pay attention to this pod part. Okay, so that's the thing. Eliminating that leaves us with cyanobacteria, diatoms. We know diatoms. Diatoms are the planktons that produce their own food. So that's one more thing. Cyanobacteria, obviously, blue green algae that we say. That they produce food on their own, so obviously they are also there. So we can eliminate options without 2, that is gone, and options without 1, options with 2 and those without 1, we will be left with 2 and 3. Okay, the logic is pods generally meaning animals or higher order species, eliminate that, and we are left with 2 and 3. We know cyanobacteria is part of the primary producers in oceans. So not just in the ocean, they are actually found in terrestrial ecosystems as well. So that is also right. So 2 and 3. That's the answer. Moving on. You don't have to learn much about it, but learn about diatoms. Actually, they are not just a single species. They encompasses a large amount of species. Okay. And planktons, diatoms are also planktons. Planktons, we cannot say that they are a name of a species. Anything that floats around in the ocean, they are called planktons. And there are 2 types of planktons, phytoplanktons and zooplanktons. These phytoplanktons are primary producers. They are much like plants. But zooplanktons feed on other animals. They are not primary producers. So not all planktons are primary producers. There is a classification between them. Okay. Pay close attention to that also. Learn about cyanobacteria and diatoms. Just refer that. Also look through this foraminifera. This is a higher order plankton-like species that is found in the ocean ecosystem. So that's it. Moving on. It's a very simple question if you know basically about, if you can eliminate this thing and know that diatoms are part of it, you can easily get to the answer. Even with the normal logic, you can actually arrive at the answer, because that's the way UPSC have given the options. The same way in the previous question also, UPSC has given the options in such a way that UPSC doesn't want to test your knowledge. They just want to test your general understanding and logic. That's about it. Moving on. I've actually mentioned this so that you can refer it later. Primary producers produce their own food, obviously through photosynthesis, and there are few types of them. That is, phytoplanktons make up almost 50% of the oxygen production. That's very important. You might think that rainforest make the 50% or that much of global oxygen production. No, it's phytoplanktons that they contribute. So then that includes diatoms, dinoflagellates, and cyanobacteria. They all comes under the phytoplankton. Again, I said plankton is not a single organism. It's a group of organisms that includes diatoms, dinoflagellates, and cyanobacteria. Then we have seaweeds. We have heard about these kelps, these brown algae that are found in temperate oceanic regions. So that's one more thing we need to know. These algae are all primary producers, and seaweed like kombu are also part of these primary producers. Then seagrasses. Remember this name. This turtle grass is a seagrass, and that's found in the ocean, and they are also a primary producer, because UPSC might ask such a question. I think this year itself UPSC is asking something about lemongrass, mosquito repellent. So turtle grass will be slightly relevant in that matter. So that's it. Moving on. Cyanobacteria, remember the name of it, that is, it has got Prochlorococcus. So coccus, we know that it would be a bacteria. Prochlorococcus will be cyanobacteria. Okay. Moving on. Next one is to reduce the chance. Again, this is something that you cannot learn it anywhere. You can only learn it, or you can only handle the question as and when they come. You cannot learn anything prior for these sort of questions. To reduce the chance of being captured by the predators, which of the following organism rolls up to protect its vulnerable parts? So basically, as a defense mechanism, things that could roll up. We have seen a lot of organisms to do that. Even smaller organisms like worms do that. When you touch them, they roll up to protect themselves. So that's a defensive mechanism. We need to know which all organisms has that. Obviously, we know pangolin. Pangolin is a protected species, vulnerable species. It's an endangered species. So we know it has got scales on behind of its back, and it has got, in order to protect its soft body, it has got scales. So it rolls up like a ball to protect itself. So pangolin is definitely there. So options without pangolin we can eliminate. So we are left with 1, 3 and 3 only. Hedgehog is something, I think if you know that it has got spines on the outside. It's a small animal that's somewhat like a rodent, but it's very small in size. But it has got spikes up its body as a defense mechanism. So if any predator like a dog or a wolf attacks it, it usually rolls up so that they won't be able to touch it, because it has got spines on the body. And that's it. Hedgehog is there. Marmot it's a rodent. It's slightly bigger, and they don't roll up or anything. They're like a squirrel that's found in the temperate regions basically, and they don't roll up or anything. They are not arboreal. Okay. The one more fact is that marmot is not arboreal. They are ground squirrels. Okay. This is slightly important, reading it. So that's the basic idea. So a filter feeder most likely will be an immobile species, but an exception to this is that blue whales also use the same idea to have planktons. They consume a large volume of water and use it to and they filter out the planktons, and then they have it. So that's another way. But in general, filter feeders are immobile species. So that's the basic idea. And basic on that idea, you know that they are all mobile except for oyster. Oysters, mussels, they are all immobile species, and they need moving water through them. They will feed that, and they will have their food from that. So that's oyster. Barnacles also, oysters, mollusks, mussels, they are all filter feeders. Those shell creatures that doesn't have the ability to move that very fast. So they are all filter feeders. Barnacles is also another important organism in this context, because they grow on other large animals like whales, sharks, etc. They grow on their body, and they use the movement of that organism to filter and feed their food. So the barnacles is also another example. So that's it. Oyster is the answer. Just look for barnacles. Okay. That's it. Moving on. Which of the following are detritivores? If you know detritivores, they are the ones that feeds on dead and decaying matter, and they don't hunt their prey, and they decompose the material, and they ejected the decomposed material, and that enriched the soil, and that's how we continue the soil cycle or the fertility cycle, and nutrient cycle is been continued, including sulfur, phosphorus, carbon cycle, etc. are actually continued by this detritivore. Nutrient cycling happens through these detritivores. Once the primary producer like plants, they grow, they decay, and those decaying materials will be given back to the soil through these detritivores. So that's what they does. So we need to study what are they doing. Okay, jellyfish is not a detritivore, that's basic, because they hunt their prey and they have their food. Again, that's not there. Seahorses, again, they are not feeding on the residues or the waste matters that is been in the ocean. They just hunt their prey and have it. So seahorses is gone, and I think we have arrived at the answer easily. We know earthworms, they do that. We know millipedes, they do that, and woodlice also does that. Woodlice that feeds on dead and decaying wood, they does that. So easily we arrive at the answer. Basic idea is that seahorse, jellyfish, they both hunt their prey and they don't feed on the dead and decaying matter, and they release nutrient, or they are not part of that nutrient cycle. Moving on, the common carbon metric. This is a slightly tricky question because our common logic can fail in this question, but we can arrive at a 50-50 and then take a risk. That's how I feel about this question, because there is no other way I could find a proper logic to this question or to arrive at an answer. But we can easily arrive at a 50-50. That's one thing. Common carbon metric. So meaning that there is a fixed metric or a unit of something related to carbon. So that's the basic idea of the keyword. So assessing the carbon footprint of building operations around the world. Okay, assessing the carbon footprint, that needs a unit. So a metric could be a unit for that. Yeah. So assessing the carbon footprint of building operations around the world. Okay, this could be it. Okay, this seems likely. Okay, anyways, we need to go through the other options as well. Enabling commercial farming entities around the world to enter carbon emission trading. That seems slightly far-fetched. Enable the commercial farming entities around the world to enter carbon emission trading. That doesn't really have any common carbon metric. As in, it doesn't really mention anything about commercial farming or anything like that. And this seems slightly a far-fetched idea. Okay, commercial farming entities to enter carbon emission trading, they will be part of whatever the carbon mechanism that is in place. They don't need any special mechanism for that matter. So this seems less likely. I won't be saying this is wrong. I'm saying this is less likely. Enabling governments to assess the overall carbon footprint caused by their countries. Again, that seems likely. Governments can actually measure their overall carbon footprint based on a common metric. That also seems likely. Assessing the overall footprint caused by the use of fossil fuels by the world in a unit time. This seems much more likely than this, because it is assessing overall carbon footprint, but overall carbon footprint for countries. But the fourth one is actually even more comprehensive than this. So if both of them are there, or if this is anything about assessing the carbon footprint, this seems more likely. Okay, because it's overall carbon footprint by the use of fossil fuels in a unit time. It's very comprehensive. So I could prefer D over C. So I can eliminate C, because I'm not saying C is wrong, but D is more likely or more comprehensive than C. So this is gone. Again, this is less likely compared to this. That is also gone. And we are left with these two options. This is what I have said, that a 50-50 could be reached easily. But moving from there is slightly difficult, because this common carbon metric is something that is actually used for building operations. But if we actually decipher the words, we might end up in this statement, but it's fine. Anyways, we are on the right direction, that we have ended up in a 50-50. But moving from there, I won't be bluffing or any saying that you can easily go and mark this as right answer. No, if you are using the proper logic, this would be the option that you will be ending up. But this is not the answer for this question. It's actually this one. The reason why I have taken this question and explained it this much is because you don't need to change your logic based on a single question. The basics of our logic or understanding is very crucial in addressing almost all the questions. And in that logic, it could actually backfire in 5 to 6 questions. But it's worth taking that risk. If you are reluctant of taking that risk, and if you are not relying on logic or developing an insight from your own, you will be losing out on the entire game. So this is how you balance your risk and reward. This is a question where actually you can your logic could fail. That is why I have specifically taken this question. This is factual actually. This is carbon footprint, building operations around the world. This is the actual answer. Even I have actually marked this thing and this was wrong for me. So this is a wrong statement. But arriving at 50-50, and you could take a risk, and it's worth taking a risk. Also, don't change your logic based on even few test series where you have got some questions wrong. Don't do that. Stick to your logic and analyze your logic whether it's rewarding in long term. That's the analysis you should make. UPSC is all about making your analysis, learning, assessing your performance, improvising upon that, and then relearning it. Okay, so don't quickly change any strategy. Build a logic, build a general logic. This is a logic that almost all the aspirants who clear uses. It's not just a unique logic I or somebody developed. It's what everybody does. It's just that you have to get used to that template and use it wisely. So answer is this, but you can arrive at a 50-50, and from there you can take a risk. That's it. Moving on, which of the following species have species that can establish symbiotic relationship with other organisms? We know what is symbiotic relationship: mutually beneficial relationship where both cater to each other's needs. So that is there. Cnidarians are species like that's a marine species. I think sea anemone belongs to that species. Sea anemone, clownfish, they have got a symbiotic relationship. So cnidarians are there. Fungi, obviously we know, lichen, that is there. So 1 and 2 is definitely there. Options without, we need to know whether it's protozoa. Protozoa, at first sight we may think that okay, it's a harmful organism, but protozoans are a large group of organisms and they can engage in a symbiotic relationship with other organisms. Protozoa, bacteria, fungi, they are all single cell multicellular organisms that can engage in a symbiotic relationship. But if the option has got virus, then that won't be the case. That's a different thing. But for most single cell multicellular organisms like fungi, bacteria, protozoa, they can actually engage in a symbiotic relationship. It's a very possible scenario. Major exception to this would be virus. Okay, so keep that in mind. So answer is D. Moving on. In the context of India's preparation for climate smart agriculture, consider the following statements. Okay, climate smart agriculture, meaning that we are adapting our climate agricultural practices to best fit the changing climate. So that's the basic idea from the word itself. Nothing factual about it, just deciphering the word. So the climate smart agriculture, climate smart village approach in India is a part of project led by Climate Change, Agriculture and Food Security, an international research program. This is something that we haven't heard about, or we don't usually hear about. And this could be a reason because it's not from UN or any other major players like World Bank or anything, or UN, UNEP, or World Economic Fund or anything of that sort, WWF or anything. This would be something of an international research program. That's why we are not hearing about this Climate Smart Village program. So that's a possible scenario that is there. Then project of CCAFS is carried out under the consultative group of International Agricultural Research headquartered in France. Again, very factual. Could be right, could be wrong. A lot of things are there, but let's see. International Crops Research Institute for Semi-Arid Tropics in India is one of the CJIR's research centers. This actually makes sense because International Crops Research Institute for Semi-Arid Tropics, ICRISAT, is one thing that focuses on developing agricultural practices to best fit this semi-arid regions where water availability is less. So increasing the productivity, reducing the water dependence, everything that aligns well with the climate smart practice. So ICRISAT could be a part of this climate smart program. So that is very good chance. The chance of that happening is high. So we can eliminate options without 3. So we have got 2, 3, 1, 3 and 1, 2, 3. Again, moving on. From the logic that we have said that such a program which is not very much in news, or we haven't heard about it like everywhere, there is a good chance that is because of a because of it is initiated by an international research program. These research programs, they are numerous, but they don't have that much of publicity going on, unlike UN or World Bank programs. So this could be a very likely scenario that this could be a part of it. So we could actually take 1 as right also. So we can eliminate options without 1 and options without 3. So that is gone. We are left with 1, 2, 3 and 1, 3. 50-50 we have reached. We are left with these two options. So let's go through this statement also. The project of CCAF is carried out under the consultative group on international agricultural research. Okay. It's saying about it has been carried out under the consultative group. So since it's a international research program, there could be collaboration happening across other research programs or institutes or organizations for that matter. So this could be right, but the only risk factor here is that it's whether it's headquartered in France or not. But UPSC, since it's a very large statement and they could not be giving it very factual and wrong, but there is an element of risk. I'm not going to lie for that. It's an element of risk, but such a program that is being done by an international research program, program will have a consultative group with other researchers, other institutes, other premier projects, etc. So this is very likely. Only risk factor is that whether it's headquarters in France or not. So that's something you need to know factually, but nobody will be knowing that. I'm not saying nobody. Most of you will be knowing that, including myself. But this seems very likely. Anyways, I have arrived at 1, 3 and 1, 2, 3. There is only a chance that this going wrong or not. I have to analyze the burden of proof. Going by the statements and everything, it's saying it's in the direction that this could be possible. But again, I'm not 100% sure. I'm saying that a 70% surety is there. The only risk factor is France. So I'm willing to take that risk. If my attempts are lower, I'll be taking that risk. I recommend the same for you also. If your attempts are low, go for that. Otherwise, you can skip this question. But it's worth taking a risk if your attempts are wrong. So I'll be going with the positive approach and choosing 2. There is a good chance that could be wrong, but it's worth taking a risk. And again, I'm saying if your attempts are enough based on your accuracy, whatever that number is, then don't take this risk. There is an element of risk to that. So moving on, answer is D. Okay. Moving on. This is one important thing. This is a personal question for me. I'll explain why. Because bisphenol A, BPA, is a cause of concern. It's a structural component in manufacturing of which of the following kinds of plastic? I think for some personal reasons, I was going through a purchase of a water bottle for myself, and most of the water bottles are made of PET only, polyethylene terephthalate. And most of the firms in the online, the e-commerce site I have consulted, they have mentioned that they are BPA free. So I was like, okay, this is how, UPSC gives me a low-hanging fruit, so I could make it right. So I was like, yeah, this is very likely BPA free water bottles mentioned, and water bottles are mostly PET. I thought this would be right, and I marked this. But in reality, it was actually polycarbonate. This is very factual in nature, and I think that was common in the current affairs. I missed that, but it's fine. Okay, and I've taken this question saying that having a keen eye helps. Especially this BPA free thing has been often associated with PET bottles, but having a keen eye helps, but it won't actually help you everywhere. So be ready to face some setbacks, but keep your eyes open. One more thing is that I won't be again suspecting my logic or my observation that, okay, I have connected BPA with PET one time and I've got it wrong. No, I won't be connecting anything that I observe from the outside, and I will be connecting it. I will be choosing the answer I see, the other answers or anything. I won't be going with those sort of bizarre logic. I've taken this question again to tell you that I'll be sticking with this logic again and again, because this will be rewarding me more than harming me. Okay. So connecting these helps, having a keen eye helps, but the actual answer is polycarbonate. Okay, so that's the factual thing. I'm telling you this not just based on how to approach a question based on logic alone. It's all about the mental picture you have, or the mental space you need to have while approaching these questions, and the way you need to look your surroundings to get to the answers or get to the logics or develop those understandings. So that's basically it. Moving on, triclosan. This is one area where the before said thing actually favored me or favored somebody who has been keenly watching the news or somebody who's been watching this TV ads, etc. really helps. This triclosan, considered harmful when exposed high level for a long time, is most likely present in which of the following? Okay. Going by the name, the only thing I could connect about this triclosan was cyclosan, and that was often mentioned in cleaning, like the bathroom cleaners and things like that, because of the most bathroom cleaners, they advertise that they contain cyclosan, etc. So going by that name, meaning that okay, this has something to do with cleaning materials or something of that sort, cleaning materials, toiletries or something like that. So it won't be food preservative, food ripening substance and reused plastic containers. So this is how I arrived at toiletries, because cyclosan or something like that is often mentioned in toilet cleaners. So triclosan could be something very similar to that also. So this could be a part of soaps, cleaners, detergents or hand washes, etc. So triclosan, I arrived at toiletries. This is why I say that, last time it backfired. The BPA thing backfired, but triclosan favored me. Just like that, you need to have a keen eye on, if you are going around and seeing some words like cyclosan, triclosan, BPA, or what you see, the common thing is like perfluoroalkyl substances, or what we say that, the common name for that, the one that is Teflon. Yeah, Teflon, the Teflon coating. This Teflon is also a perfluoroalkyl substance. So keep an eye on that Teflon coating and things about that, because question has been asked about it. Such questions are not learned, or we don't learn anything from current affairs. Mostly we won't be dealing with current affairs unless there is a treaty on that matter. We won't be learning about them in current affairs. It's just that your common logic, common observation, the way you see the world around you matters. So triclosan, toiletries. Next, look for Teflon. Teflon is actually very important. Though Teflon is very thermally stable, they can actually decompose and they can cause bioaccumulative effects in humans, even though we use that for our cooking hardware. So that's an irony, because still we use Teflon for all our cooking utensils, but still it can cause biomagnification effect in humans, and its long-term exposure and its decomposition is harmful only. Keep that in mind and look for Teflon. And Teflon is also a perfluoroalkyl substance. The same question has been asked in 2024. So keep that in mind. We can expect such questions in the future also. And also going through these PYQs really helps. This triclosan, BPA. If a UPSC could club these three things and use a match the following format also. Again, these PYQs helps. You cannot look for every random chemicals or materials that is there. The way you can actually look for things is based on what UPSC has already asked. So make a list of that materials, go through them. That is more than enough. So I think that will be all for today's session. We will be continuing this session in the coming weeks, and stay tuned for more, and see you soon.